lightweight, right? It's been a tenth or 2/10, sometimes a quarter pound heavier than the competition. And if you appreciated enough those other things, which we thought were pretty important, you went with Fox. Now there's no excuse even on the weight side. So the new F-Series, F80s, F100s are under 3.2 pounds. Took a bunch of weight out of them. The biggest weight change year over year was the F120, which went from, what was it, Bill, about 140 grams?
Yeah, it's like 125.
125 gram weight difference between the 2010 F120 and the 09. And the 80s and 100s were about 80 grams?
Yeah, about 80 grams, yeah.
About 80 grams weight difference between an F80 and an F100 2010 versus 2009. That weight savings has come from a couple different spots. One is we've got a new damper, and it's a closed damper so that we can run less oil. And we've got an open bath damper. In order to have the damper replenish itself and stay feeling good, we've got to run a real high oil height. So by closing the damper and separating the air from the oil, we can run a smaller volume of damper oil, and then an appropriate amount of lubrication bath oil. And we saved about 65 grams, 60 grams from that damper change alone. The rest of the F-Series weight savings come from crown steer upper tube assembly changes that we've made, with the biggest change in that assembly coming from the F120. The float and talus and vanillas also get this closed damper, and so they get that same 65 weight gram savings, but their chassis have essentially stayed the same year over year. We call this damper our fit damper. We've had fit in the past in our 36 and 40s, which basically it's Fox isolated technology where the air, the damping oil is isolated from the air, so it stays super, it doesn't get aerated, it stays super clean, and at all the transitions when you go from compression to rebound or rebound to compression, it's instantly right there, so it inspires a lot of confidence, great traction, and it's a real high quality, no fade kind of feel. The way in the F-Series that the air separated from the oil is with this external bladder here. On the 36s and 40s, we have a bladder down here in the base of the fork, and it's surrounded by a can and what we call an internal bladder, and it gets squeezed on as the oil gets forced into this chamber. Up here, it's an external bladder, and it actually expands up in this area. So when the shaft and the fork compresses, oil gets shot up through this little center guy here, up through all this valving stuff, and out into this chamber, and it expands that bladder. And then so to refill this lower section of the cartridge real efficiently, instead of having to go up and around and do that again, it just drops right out the bottom. So it fills from here and expands out, and then it replenishes and drains back through that little check valve right down in there. So it's real smooth, efficient, doesn't beat up the oil, and so over long periods of time, the oil doesn't get beat up as much. This damper is an RLC. The RLCs of the past had a lockout blow-off threshold down here. It was a blue knob. You can see now that this is a red knob, and in the Fox world, red means rebound and blue is generally compression. So we've got rebound adjustment here at the bottom this year, where in the past that's been the blow-off threshold. Rebound after you set your sag is the next most important fork or shock setting, but it tends to be a set and forget type of a thing. So being down at the bottom is a good place for it. You set your sag, you set your rebound, and you pretty much go away and ride. All of the stuff that you might actually adjust during the trail now has been moved to the top. So we've always had our lockout lever and our low-speed bezel, but now this black knob contained within the lockout lever is the blow-off threshold that used to be down here. So that's something that's real easy to change during the course of your ride. The low-speed compression, the range on that guy is much wider, but even when you dial in a whole bunch of low-speed compression, which will ask you to mess around with out on the trail. It's got such a wide range now that, you know, we'll probably find that fewer and fewer people go for that lockout lever because it calms things down so much. But it also is real compliant when you start hitting things. So it's super firm in the max setting, but then it can still absorb bumps. If you do want to go for your lockout lever, it's this guy, which we've had in the past, and then we've got the blow-off adjuster contained right there.